Today we're going to talk about one of the most famous paintings in the world, one of the most parodied, one of the most referenced, and it is one of my favorite paintings of all time. And if you can guess what painting I am talking about from this ridiculous description, then congratulations, you are a scholar of art history. But I know that most of you will not be able to do so, and that's why I'm here to help. In 1888, a Dutch post-impressionist painter painted a still life with a pair of human ears and a pipe. This painting is known as the ear, or the real ear, or just ear, but don't confuse it with the ear that Vermeer painted. And if you thought that the name of the artist was Vincent van Gogh, then again congratulations because you are a scholar of art history. But how does this painting fit into the bigger picture? How does it compare to other works by Van Gogh or other artists of the time? What artistic techniques did Van Gogh use to paint an ear? What were his intentions when creating this work? And above all, what message was hidden in plain sight in this painting for us to discover? Join me today as we uncover the real history behind Van Gogh's ear. Before we begin, a quick word from our sponsor. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to leave a like. It really helps me out, and it helps others find this video too. Let's get started. Vincent van Gogh, born in the Netherlands in 1853, was a post-impressionist painter who created some of the most iconic works of art in history, such as Starry Night, Sunflowers, and many others. Although he only sold one painting during his lifetime, he is now considered to be one of the greatest painters of all time. Van Gogh was heavily influenced by the Impressionist movement, and like many of his contemporaries, he liked to paint plein air, which means outdoors, where he could capture the natural environment and light as accurately as possible. During his lifetime, he struggled with mental health issues and poverty, which contributed to his decision to end his own life. However, after his death, he has become one of the most celebrated and influential artists in history. His paintings have been displayed around the world and continue to inspire awe and wonder in viewers. Now let's take a look at the ear. As mentioned before, this painting was completed in 1888 by Vincent van Gogh. At the time, Van Gogh was living in poverty and struggling with his mental health. He had recently cut off part of his own ear in a fit of depression and was seeking help at a psychiatric hospital. During his stay at the hospital, he befriended a fellow patient, Dr. Paul Gachet, who was a physician and amateur artist. Dr. Gachet had a collection of Japanese art and other curiosities in his home, which included a pair of human ears that had been preserved in alcohol. Van Gogh was fascinated by these ears and asked if he could use them as the subject for a painting. Dr. Gachet agreed and allowed Van Gogh to take the ears from their container and examine them closely. After spending some time with his new subject, Van Gogh began to sketch and plan out his composition. He wanted to create a still life with the ears as the focal point, but he wasn't sure how to arrange them. He considered placing them on a table or hanging them on a wall, but ultimately decided to simply lay them on a bed. Once he was happy with his composition, Van Gogh began to mix his paints. He chose to paint the ears in a realistic style, but he used bold brushstrokes and a limited color palette of yellows, reds, and greens. He also added a pipe to the composition, which was another object that he found interesting in Dr. Gachet's collection. As Van Gogh worked on his painting, he began to feel a sense of calm and focus that he hadn't felt in a long time. He was so absorbed in his work that he didn't notice the passage of time, and he lost himself in the creative process. When he finished, he stepped back to admire his work and felt a sense of pride and accomplishment. He named his painting The Ear and showed it to Dr. Gachet, who was very impressed by the finished piece. Van Gogh continued to paint during his stay at the hospital, and he produced some of his most famous works during this time, including Starry Night. After his release from the hospital, Van Gogh continued to paint the ear and other still lifes with objects that he found interesting. He experimented with different color palettes and brushwork, but he always returned to the calming effect that painting had on him. So what is the meaning of this artwork? To answer this question, we must look no further than the artist himself. In a letter to his contemporary and friend Paul Gauguin, Van Gogh explained the inspiration behind the ear. He wrote, "I have done a still life with two ears, green, yellow, and red. I was thinking of you while I did it. I think it is an honest bit of work." Upon reading this, it seems that Van Gogh painted the ears as a tribute to his friend and fellow artist Paul Gauguin. But why would he choose to paint a pair of dismembered human ears as a tribute? Well, there are several theories. Some scholars believe that the painting is a metaphor for Van Gogh's own struggles with mental illness. The severed ears represent his fractured psyche, while the bold colors and thick brushstrokes represent the intensity of his emotions. Others believe that the painting is a tribute to Gauguin's influence on Van Gogh's work. The two ears could represent the two artists, with each ear representing a different aspect of their personalities. For example, Gauguin was known for his bold use of color, while Van Gogh was known for his expressive brushwork. Still, others believe that the painting is simply a study of form and color. Van Gogh was fascinated by the way that light and shadow interact to create form. He was constantly experimenting with new ways to capture this effect in his work. The ear is one of several paintings that Van Gogh completed during his stay at the hospital, and it is possible that he was simply working through a variety of different subjects and techniques. While we may never know Van Gogh's true intentions behind the ear, it is clear that the painting is a powerful and moving work of art. The subject matter is both disturbing and intriguing, and the technical skill on display is undeniable. Whether viewed as a self-portrait, a tribute to a friend, or simply as a study of form and color, the ear is a fascinating and important work that continues to resonate with viewers today. Van Gogh's genius cannot be denied. The man is a legend, and his works are priceless. But what about the present day? What would something like this be worth today? Would people still pay millions for something that looks like this? Well, it turns out they already have. On March 2019, Van Gogh's portrait of Dr. Gachet, another painting done during the artist's stay at the institution where he painted the ear, sold for $81 million at a Sotheby's auction house in New York. The painting had been in the possession of the same family for almost 70 years before it was put up for sale. It was authenticated in 1924 and had been passed down through generations until it was finally put up for auction. The final price tag of $81 million made it the most expensive painting ever sold at auction at the time. Now, as for the ear, the painting is currently owned by the Pushkin Museum in Moscow, Russia. And now it's time for you to make your voice heard. What do you think of Van Gogh's ear? Is it a brilliant work of art, or is it simply a bizarre and meaningless painting? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on future videos. Thanks for watching. See you next time.